Greetings, ladies and gents, and welcome to this latest narration of the web series There Is No Epic Loot Here, Only Puns. If you're new to the series, there is a playlist listed down below in the description. And as always, I hope that you enjoy. Chapter 207, Telegam. Delta could feel her energy infuse Giant, the blessing slowly linking to the monster's center. It took everything Delta had not to lose concentration and accidentally give the frog an afro or awesome sneakers. The blessing was a wild thing, wanting to be free to cause havoc. But Delta was patient, layering it in place bit by bit until Giant had a rough loop of energy coursing through his body. Only a few strands of the blessing wriggled loose and got lost in the process, but Delta was sure, almost positive, that wouldn't be an issue. "This feels warm," Giant whispered as he held out his hands, lines of orange mana flowing just under his green and brown skin. "I think that should be it. Do you feel magical?" Delta asked slowly as she stepped back, seeing no obvious change in his menu. Giant tilted his head and he stood up on a long wooden bridge and tried to wave his webbed hands with little success. "Maybe it didn't work," Giant said, sounding disappointed, and Delta refused to accept that. She had purposely mutated too many things to get this blessing business down to a usable level. "Think happy thoughts," she encouraged, and created a simple training dummy for Giant to focus on. The frog's face scrunched up as his body trembled as if happy thoughts were some internal organ that he had to stimulate. Giant took a step forward and punched, causing the air to ripple and the dummy to fall over without much damage a second later. Delta stared at the minor force amplification skill Giant employed. It was something, but not quite. "I have telekinesis," Giant said with pure joy. Delta tried not to squirm as she was presented with the option of being a paragon of kindness or a renegade of honesty. On one hand, Delta wanted to make Giant happy, and he was. On the other hand, he was a little like lying to Giant to his face about what he was actually doing. "Tele-fist!" Giant cried, and rapidly began shadowboxing, creating little ripples of displaced air, followed by sharp popping noises. The blessing inside him didn't budge, but Delta guessed it didn't matter. Giant's happiness came first, and the study of the shapes second. Magic was a distant concern in the grand scheme of things. "Tele-jump!" Giant went on and vanished high into the sky, where the beautiful sunny day flickered and glitched out as Giant smashed his head first into the very solid ceiling. "Maybe the blessings will manifest of safety gear and cushions," Delta mused aloud as his monster fell into the river with panicked cries of "Tele-fly!" She watched as Rail helped his brother out with a boisterous laugh, making Giant look pleased but embarrassed. "Ha ha ha! Giant heart of the fist!" Rail declared, and Giant brightened like that was something he hadn't even thought of. Delta smiled, watching the scene with deep warmth in her chest as the single thread of self began to weave its way through Giant. It wasn't magic, but it was magical how sometimes the small things were enough. As she wandered off for a moment, Delta frowned as she held out her hand, the blessing of magic and her glowing. The thing was unpredictable and finicky. Honestly, she much preferred using the dungeon system due to its more reliable input and output. Faith and magic were prone to irony, Delta just knew it. There was also the fact that magic tended to cause eyes to grow everywhere, which was weird. She didn't understand why that was a thing. Anything she blessed haphazardly would grow eyes and forever be watching the target, like some sort of overbearing stalker. "New," she called out, and the screen appeared, pulling New away from his new pastime of watching idiots in the mirror dungeons fail repeatedly. "What happens when you bless something?" she asked the blue screen. "Nothing has earned that privilege," New said bluntly. "Leave it to New to be stingy with his blessings." "Why don't we see together, so there's no surprises?" Delta suggested, as she pointed to a rabbit nearby. New gave off the feeling of grimacing as he eyed it. "It's not really impressive. Its kill ratio is 0-0, New protested. "It's a critter," Delta stressed. "You weren't saying that when you fought Maharia," New grumbled, but he floated forward. Delta finally got to see the blessing magic work from outside as New glowed with a blue so deep that it was almost black, but slowly golden lines flowed across his screen, coalescing in an orb in front of his form. It was beautiful, and when it washed over the rabbit, something absolutely unacceptable happened. The rabbit semi-stood up on its hind legs, picking up a nearby branch and brandishing it like a sword. It bowed to New like he was some sovereign and the rabbit was a knight. It was so cute, Delta felt stiff. cheated. This was unfair. Nighthare, the borrower of justice. A knightly rabbit with basic sword skills. It'll stand for no crime against its king. Ugh. What a pathetic increase in combat abilities. This is a waste of my energy, Noose said, and Delta was silent. Delta? Noose asked, turning and paused when he saw Delta's fingers trembling. Delta grabbed him, fingers digging deep as she looked visibly upset. Give me your blessing. I want it. I want it. Take my monster-making blessing, she demanded, shaking the screen hard in despair. That's not how it works. You invoke monstrous self-expression. I seek servants to destroy my foes. Of course the blessing would be expressed differently, Lou cried out. That gave Delta an idea. Let's bless something together, she decided, and Lou didn't even argue, the idea becoming intriguing to him instantly. They both slowly turned to a pickle cap emerging from a nearby bush, oblivious to the attention on it. This could end badly, Delta admitted aloud as she slowly moved closer. New right on her heels. Of course it will. I just wish to see how badly it'll go, the menu admitted. At the same time, without speaking, they blessed the little pickle cap, the twin blessings rolling over it and making it oink in surprise. The creature trembled before its entire body turned into a tiny sphere of pure brown crystal. What happened? Delta blinked as the thing radiated tiny sprinkles of mana. Before New could answer, the screen appeared. Critter turned into dungeon seed. Type pickle cap. Benefits, host becomes much cuter and grows mushrooms on their head. Oh, lovely. We create class seeds to infect people's seeds faster. I can't wait to see people lining up for the pickle cap class. New grunted, vastly unimpressed by the result. The pickle cap, consumed by the process, reappeared with bewilderment as its respawn timer kicked in instantly, and Delta was happy to see that it was mostly okay. So self-expression, mixed with influence and enhanced abilities, makes these things? Delta mused, and New stared at the orb for a moment. On dungeon monsters, yes. However, there is no telling what it'll do to actual people, he warned. I wonder if it's like my dungeon monsters are able to leave the dungeon due to the mana vibes. It might be weird, Delta replied as she moved the orb to the core room for now, the orb being suspended in a concealed spot in the 4th floor star where her core was hidden. I'm sure that'll just thrill the outsiders, New said sarcastically, as he told his new loyal knight to swing his sword 1,000 times before reporting back to him. Delta just stared at the cute bunny with a longing expression clear on her face, trying to ignore the scuttling eye monsters wandering past. Needing to get back to work, she asked Hob and Gob to request Rudy to visit. Since this was having no luck on finding Durance's shape, Delta figured it couldn't hurt to ask those closest to him in life if they had any idea. Rudy was the perfect person to ask. She was tough, hard-working, and would only take occasional booze breaks. Meanwhile, it occurred to her that when Maharia talked about shapes, she managed to slip away before Delta could figure out how to study the girls. It would still be attached and working, even in a new form. Anything that could get Delta closer to letting Durance the Mimic grant her access to the echo that it had trapped was one more step to helping everyone in this world. You're a real pal, the sword commented as Ammonster dried himself off slowly, with a towel in his room. The sword thrown aside by the strange girl did not stop talking. Ammonster eyed it before he sat down on his bed, Gamma leaning against the wall nonchalantly. You upset that girl pretty badly, he commented, and Gamma hummed as if it was a thing that just happened around him. Beheaded the wrong vampire, he admitted, and Ammonster barely had time to digest that when Gamma continued. Thrice, he added. That's a lot of murder, Ammonster said slowly, wondering if he brought a cursed tool into his home when Gamma snorted. I didn't want to slow down, and she did the swinging. I just told her there was a vampire coming up. I only got details of their faces when we were already shooting past, Gamma admitted. That seems reckless. Vampires could die from that, you know, Ammonster responded. From what he learned from Mr. Jones, vampires grew increasingly hard to kill as they aged, to the point that beheading was merely a step in the process for some. It was something to do about the mana that drained from people's blood or something. Vengeance is swift, not logical. The girl wanted dead vampires. I obliged, Gamma said, sounding increasingly bored with the conversation, as if fault and responsibility were things he found tiresome. The sword's tone changed to something more interesting. Enough about her. Let's hear about you, a little savior of moi. What does the strange goth desire in the house of God? Some god? Gamma asked, causing Amster to raise a brow at the tone. This is my home, Amster said without any hesitation. My deepest sympathies, Gamma said bluntly. Not a fan of the gods? Amster asked, knowing the tone a little from the children who found the concept of a higher power weird to work with on a daily basis, like his father did. Not a fan of religions, Gamma corrected. There's a difference? Amster frowned, not following as the sword slowly floated to the nearby window, the action taking a decent chunk of mana in which the sword had to consider the amount of. Gods can be mercy and love, but when left alone their followers learn to be selective about the lessons. You have some luck around here. Gods actually get testy if you get ideas, Gamma teased, spinning lightly on the spot, causing the small groove to appear in Amster's wooden floor. I'm sorry you experienced that, the boy said, thinking about how his own childhood had mostly positive influences, aside from his father's long absences to perform saint work. Don't be, it was so long ago. I've plenty more things I despise more these days, the sword promised brightly as it came to a stop. Amster was almost afraid to ask, since there was something about the sword that caused a knot of unease to rise in the teen's stomach. He spoke with a happy tone, but the emotions felt like a performance, a front he offered to the world to hide something darker. Like, he decided to ask, taking the risk. Queens and idiots, Gamma said flippantly. But hey, listen, I was hoping to go to the local dungeon for reasons. Mine being a pair of legs, I'll reward you. I have many treasures. Gamma said, and he shifted to a gaudy gold scepter that radiated a weak holy light. The judgment rod of Steve, able to influence others with similar-sounding names, Gamma tempted. No, thank you, Amster refused politely, having toys from his childhood that gave off stronger purity. Ah, tough customer. You clearly a rebel, Gamma said, as if spotting how Amster dressed in darker clothes in comparison to the bright church abode. Gamma shifted once more to a staff of yellow bones that radiated an aura of darkness. The accursed lish staff of Bonrotter. She was able to overcome a whole town using chicken bones until she assembled a dinosaur skeleton squad. Gamma purred, sounding softer and more teasing. I'm not really a staff user, Amster declined again, remaining polite. Gamma kept shifting as if they could find the correct shape, the perfect form. Then Amster would be agreeable to their wishes. The dark claws of Logan. They look dirty. The gleaming blade of the sunlight. It hurts my eyes to look at. The bow of the Hunter Queen. Don't have arrows? This went on for some time. All Amster really wanted was a please. End of chapter. I would just quickly like to thank the T5 peeps. Dragon Soup, Cold War Boomerwaffen, Severin Cerberus, Red Panda 121, Leslie 517, Bushmaster 177, Caspar Arnold, Cam Maxwell, Sans the Skeleton, Lightjock, Dragzoon WRE, and Lord Azrakal. Thank you very much.